This is incredible. Thank you so much for being here. I think we're going to get it underway. All right. I know, I just need to... Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is amazing. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, absolutely incredible. Are we rolling? I just want to... Antonio, are we... Am I... Oh, I'm talking to people out there, too. All right, good. Hi. Just making sure we're all here, including those who are not here. So yeah, I'm Mike Wendt. I'm the programming director here, and I'm really mostly up here just to say thank you all so much for being here. It is such an incredible pleasure. We're so thrilled to host this translation party. Many thanks to all at World Poetry, at Eulalia Books, and Action Books. Yeah, woo! All right. Everyone participating, and thanks also to the folks we've been working with at ALTA, who've been really wonderful, and we're partnering with them in a variety of ways. Lewis, who's around here somewhere, will be at a table with books there. There's a workshop here tomorrow, which I know will be mentioned, but I just, mention it a couple times with Kareem James Abu Zaid, Translating Culture and Image and Poetry. That's from 1 to 3 tomorrow right here, and there is still space. If you're interested, please come talk to us. I also am holding this, our print newsletter, so I hope you grab one of these. And visit us online. I know many of you have traveled to be here, so maybe can't come back to Woodland Pattern very easily to attend events, but many of them are live streamed, and we have books for sale online as well as in the store. And speaking of, we do have quite a number of books related specifically to this reading, as well as to the conference more generally out in the front room of the bookstore, and then of course throughout. So I hope you'll take some of those home with you. I mean, don't just take them, but pay for them first, preferably. Yeah, buy them is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, right. And then feel free to. We still have some drinks out there and stuff. So after the reading's over, you can hang out here. We will be open to sell books as well. And thanks. This is really wonderful. I'm going to turn things over now to Katie Long. Thanks.
Thank you. My name is Katie Long with World Poetry. Welcome to our translation party. Thank you so much to Michael and everyone at Woodland Pattern for organizing this with us tonight. Thank you to Lewis for getting all the books and the beautiful display in the front room. Please buy books. The authors are here if you want your books signed for later. There's a really impressive display of ALTA shortlists in the front, so check them out. Thank you to Kate Hadeen, who can't be here, but also Johannes Göransson, who is representing Action Books. Thank you to Michelle Gil-Montero for Eulalia and following the reading. Please join us at Art Bar, which is a few short blocks in the neighborhood. Seems like a full room. I'm not sure how many people are here, but I'm pretty sure we'll be able to buy everyone one drink when you arrive. As mentioned, one of the World Poetry translators, Kareem James Abu Zaid, will be hosting a workshop tomorrow. We'd love if you could come back. We also are going to be participating in the book fair Sunday at ALTA at the hotel. So if you're at the Hyatt Regency in downtown Milwaukee, please come say hi. There'll be more books for sale. And now I'm going to call Bonnie up, who is speaking on behalf of the Palestine Action Lab and the BIPOC Caucus.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Katie, and James and Matvei. So I'm here on behalf of the Palestine Action Lab, which happened at ALTA last year, and also the BIPOC Caucus, and not in my official capacity at ALTA, But I just wanted to let everyone know that we are doing a book raffle with all money going to a mutual aid fund organized by Translating Palestine and the Samir Project. And so a couple of us, me and Jenna, and I don't know if Soleil is around, will be in the back room selling raffle tickets, which are $5 a piece. And you can enter to win a bundle of books generously donated by Archipelago, Catapult, Europa, Grove, Atlantic, NYR Books, Winter Editions, and World Poetry, all by Palestinian writers. We will be doing the first raffle tonight before the last reader goes on, and then we'll continue to do raffles tomorrow and Sunday. And we have more information on this flyer here. So if at any point, kind of like over the course of the next hour, you like have a moment, you can step out, get a raffle ticket from us, or later on in the evening, and that can go towards tomorrow's raffle. You don't have to be present. When we do the raffle, we'll email you. And that's it. Am I missing anything? Okay. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Hi. I'm the fourth person to speak before we actually get to any readings, but I'll be very brief. I'm Matvei Yankelevich with World Poetry. Thank you, Bonnie, and the raffle team. If you can get to the raffle just before the last reader, then you might win something tonight. If not, you can also get, like Bonnie said, a raffle ticket and win something later. And you will be notified if you do. I am very, I should tell you, well, first of all, I also wanted to say, because Michael was very brief, but this is, I think, one of the most important historic spaces for poetry in the United States. And it's amazing that it's still here since, the early 80s or late 70s? 79, that's what I thought, okay. So thank you to everybody who's keeping it alive, Laura, Jenny, and Chuck, and Louis, and Michael, and everybody, Antonio. So, it's such a pleasure to be doing this event here at Woodland. So, World Poetry, if you don't know, is a small nonprofit publisher. We're based in Brooklyn. We're driven by the singular mission of supporting poetry translators, as our name suggests, and bringing out new translations of poetry from a broad range of languages and traditions from the past and the present. And we are very pleased to start our reading with, all the people from the presses, if it's not obvious to you yet, we will be getting up and introducing people. So I'm not the first. This is not the only introduction you'll hear. But the first reader will be Alex Braslavsky, who I haven't seen. There she is. Oh, good. Wait, before you get up here, I'm going to tell people who you are. Alex is a scholar, translator, and poet, a graduate student in the Harvard Slavic department. She writes on Russian, Polish, and Czech poetry. Her own poetry has appeared in Conjunctions and Colorado Review, among others. She was an ALTA mentee in 2021 with Kareem, actually, right? And her translation of Zuzana Ginchanka's On Centaurs and Other Poems came out with World Poetry in 23, and it has been shortlisted for the ALTA First Translation Prize. So here's Alex.
Hi, everyone. So I'll try to keep to my 8 minutes. But this poet, Zuzana Ginchanka, here's the beautiful cover of this book. She She lived to the age of 28. She wrote a lot of poems as a child. So a lot of what makes this volume special is that I translated much of her juvenilia, and she was killed in the Holocaust. She was born in what is now Ukraine, was of Russian heritage, and grew up of Polish cultural heritage. And she chose to write in Polish very specifically. And I think I'll just go ahead and start reading a little bit of the start of a poem called Process in the original Polish. You can hear a little bit of the language. And then I'll go into the reading of the poem. But this poem is from her only collection on centaurs. So, Proces. 1. Na początku było niebo I ziemia, czarny tłuszcz I habrowy tlen, I jelonki przy gibkich jeleniach, z Bogiem miękkim I białym jak len. Process. 1. In the beginning was heaven and earth, black tallow and cornflower oxygen, and fawns flanking lithe deer with God soft and white, flaxen. 2. Cretaceous, Jurassic, Triassic. Soil layers itself into tree rings. The Miocene charges by tank in majestic conquest. And there's a separation here between water and an earth of ferns and birch woods. And he sees that it is good when Genesis awakens at dawn. Nitrogen is brewing into lava. Lava congeals by lacquer. Mountain surmounting mountain. By cosmic thundering astride, the Carboniferous saturates the earth with coalstone pulp. And he sees that it is good for moist amphibians and stars. Iron pulsates at its most bloody, phosphor tightens in the tibia, and he whistles into the crater pipes with singing air. 3. In the beginning was heaven and earth, and fawns, and flaxen deer, but then the course changes. This flesh became word. 4. When sometime under the fragrant angel, the robust rhododendron trembled, they squealed, cracked those puzzle grasses, large and abundant like New York. In Konin, Brest, and Ruvne, on the squares, daisies wither, and policemen, night by night, are loving their wedded wives. So I don't want to take up all the time, but you can see in that poem that she sort of talks about the flesh becoming word and reverts sort of these givens in Genesis and is creating her own, enacting her own origin myth, and also sort of combining the narratives of evolution and the Bible together and contending with them. And she's really invested in that. That's why she takes the centaur as her central image. It's this image of hybridity, and that was something that she lived. She lived a very hybrid existence. Thank you for listening.
Hi, thanks all for coming. You look amazing. It's an amazing space. I'm Johannes Göransson. I'm the editor of Action Books, which has been going on for 20 years, much to my shock. We started it basically just out of the realization of how few contemporary books of poetry in translation were published in the U.S. And that came about because I had trouble publishing a book that I had translated by the Swedish poet Åsa Berg. then we just kind of started publishing it, and we wanted to bring in U.S. poets as well. We wanted poets in conversation across both translations, both translated poets and U.S. poets to create a transnational conversation. And after we published the first books, we saw in Circumference Don Miche's translation of Kim Il-sung, and we decided we had to publish that. And before I knew it, I had been swept into this huge transnational discussion about poetry, of poetry that I was not entirely prepared for, and I mean that in the best way. I'm going to introduce Gabriel Gudding, who's translated Gunnar Varnes from Norwegian. Gabriel Gudding was born in 1966 in Minnesota and raised in a once Norwegian-speaking community, a recipient of a 2024 translation fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts. He is a poet, essayist, translator, and professor of English at Illinois State University. Okay, come on.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to read one poem by Gunnar Varnes. It's called Expert at Being Born. It's 8 minutes long. I heard Gunnar read this in Sundsvall, Sweden. Much of the room was giggling. Gunnar's wife was weeping. Gunnar writes a great deal about child abuse. And I forgot my beta blockers, so I'm really nervous right now. All right. Expert at being born. Hello, my name is not yet born. My name is living in the stomach and holding my breath and counting all the steps to my mom. 9 months have passed, but I won't be born because my dad said he's going to kill me. I'm thinking maybe I won't have to be born if I start helping out at home. So that's why I sneak out of the house at night to fetch water, carry firewood, and chase predators with a stick. It must be my tracks they've seen around the house. I keep my mouth clapped shut, but I'm learning to speak anyway. And anyway, I'm suddenly too big. I'm going to have to be born. I can't help it. The first time I'm born, my dad stabs me with this knife before I can even get my eyes open, and I die before it is time to hurt. I do manage to get angry, though, and so I resolve to continue being born. The second time I'm born, he strangles me with my umbilical cord, even though any thug's capable of understanding that boiling a baby goat in its milk is double gross. He is plain evil, needs to learn a lesson, and I resolve to continue being born. The third time I'm born, I barely manage to say hello before he pulps me with a rock. At least he could say hello back. I resolve to continue being born. I will avenge myself. The fourth time I'm born, he opens me with a crowbar. I try to meet his eyes before he starts laying into me, but he avoids my gaze. I take that as a sign of weakness. I will manage to be born if it's the last thing I do. The fifth time I'm born, he's about to dismember me with an axe, but I say, I know who you are. And that startles him. I announce that I am resolving to continue being born. He got scared. I saw it. I'm starting to understand him. The sixth time I'm born, I scream, I see you're getting gray hairs, you bastard. I have time on my side. And then he's like, if you try anything, I'll kill your mom. I mean, how low can a guy sink? I resolve to continue being born, but from now on, I'm not going to scream as much. The seventh time I'm born, I can't hold back and scream that if you touch my mom, I'll bite your dick off. He replies, he who bites his father's dick will never be born. I come up with a good retort, and he beats me to death with the same shovel he digs my grave with afterward. This really must be hell. I need to be born twice in a row if I'm going to manage a way out of here. The eighth time I'm born, I prepared myself, and I hissed to him, he who kills his own son may as well, or his own child may as well fuck his own grave. He didn't expect that. He pounds me with a maul in a fit of pique and just keeps pounding me long after I'm dead. It's moving forward-ish. The ninth or 10th time I'm born, I grit at him, remember me? And now he completely loses it. He probably stabs me in the face 100 times with a screwdriver while yelling, Die, die, die. I take that as a sign that I just need to keep doing what I'm doing and that I become an expert at being born. The 11th or 15th time I'm born, I say, I will kill your dick, it is prophesied. And then he goes, I know that, that's why I'm killing you, in case you're wondering, it's self-defense, we're a family of honor. And then he stomps on me and breaks my legs in a bunch of places, flings me onto an anthill, unfolds a camping chair and slouches in it, drinking beer while he watches me being eaten by ants. The 16th or 20th time I'm born, I say, I would have died of old age by now if you had just let me live. And for the first time, he kills me with his bare hands. He has surprisingly warm and soft hands. The 17th or 30th time I'm born, I tell him, I've learned about murdering children. Murdered kids will scream at night, will dry up the fields, empty the udders on the cattle, brand a murdered child so it stays in the forest, cook it in 7 different pots so it stays in the forest. Give a piece of its meat to a bear, a piece to a wolverine, a piece to a marten, a piece to a viper, a piece to the crows, a piece to its mother, and you keep the last piece for yourself. Chew the meat 7 times, so the murdered child stays in the forest. Use goat blood, snail shells, and lamp oil 3 times on each side of its broken head. Then the murdered child will stay in the forest and won't dare come back. Burn the cabin where the child was born so it doesn't start looking for its family. The child born dead needs to be killed an extra time, and then tricked into being born 3 more times, once face down, once face up, and a final time without a face. That child will first be born in the sunlight, then in the moonlight, and finally in a rain shower. And then you should let it live because it can totally spot other murdered kids long before you can see them yourself. Everyone should remember all the names of all the murdered kids, but nobody should say their names out loud because then they're all going to come back for revenge. Just ask Longthorn, who was shackled to his mom's thighs. Just ask Thirsty Tears, who was sucked up by the sand. Just ask Bird of Prey who eats berries. Ask Spider with folded hands who can wait until the flies are drowning in palm wine. Ask Skull Baby who suckles on lamp oil. Ask Skin and Bones Baby who wiggles in the dust and gums you in the heel. Ask Little Pointy Tongue who keeps licking your ear. We have all seen in our dreams the plains where the newborn crawl on all fours in the baking sun, where burial mounds made of dried egg yolk, cast human-sized shadows. And my father groans, when are you going to learn to shut your tongue hole? And then he does what he's become an expert at, namely beating me to death. By the 18th or 80th time I was born, I had already had an unusually long life, as gossip and ghoul, as crime and rumor. And I say it straight to his face, right where he stands with his javelin at the ready. Let me just be an ordinary kid, and I'll stand in a corner like an ordinary kid, and let myself be forgotten like an ordinary kid. The 17th or 100th time I'm born, I can tell he's getting old. He stopped killing me in ways that cause spouts of blood, and instead he kills me with his whining. My back hurts from throwing you down the mountain, boo-hoo. I could once crush your neck like an empty toilet paper roll. Now I have to squeeze it until I break out in a sweat, boo-hoo. I reply in kind, you need to take care of yourself, Dad. Yes, don't climb into the attic alone, Dad. You don't eat properly, Dad. You're getting thin, and you're all huff and boo and hoo and puff. You can't get strong from eating porridge, Dad, sigh and alas. It's not good that you should come here and have nothing else to do, sigh and huff and alas. Getting old is no party, no sir it isn't, and that helps. He shrinks and shrinks, routinely killing me more and more while I continue to be born. The 1000th time I'm born, he's beyond old and lies as still as he can to keep his guts inside. I say to him, it was better that time you killed me like a proper man, with rage and tools and weapons. This whining of yours isn't just killing me, it could kill the sun itself. And I shout as loud as I can, look here, come and look. Look at this skin rag. My dad could kill. My dad could punch and kick. Everyone was afraid of him, but no one was more afraid of him than I was. Look at him now, look. And then I roll onto my side and choke him with one hand. It doesn't feel like a victory. Now I can finally kill. And I can tell you that it is not an art. and then I skin him and hang the skin on a branch like a soaked flag. And then I munch through my umbilical cord. Yeah, buddy, born at last. And then I'll turn around and for the first time look my mom in the eye and get her version.
Wow. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Gil-Montero. I'm the founding editor of Eulalia Books, and it's really terrific to be here in this amazing company. We are a press that began about 6 years ago, so in like human developmental terms, we're still a kid, very much like looking up to the cooler publisher kids that are with us tonight. Action was a huge inspiration to us in particular. We publish work, debut English editions by Latin American writers from all regions of Latin America, all languages of Latin America. And we have 2 books tonight here that aren't even officially released yet, and they will be at the book fair on Sunday, and I hope you check them out. I'm going to introduce Lauren Shapiro, translator of Waking in the Sahara, which is one of those books. Lauren Shapiro is the author of Brid, out by Valise Books this year. Arena, CSU Poetry Center 2020, and Easy Math from Saraband 2013. She translated Despertar en el Sahara, Waking in the Sahara by Zaira Pacheco, which is out now from Eulalia, or almost out. And she's translated poetry and short fiction from Spanish, Italian, Vietnamese, and Arabic. She's an associate professor of English at Carnegie Mellon University, where she directs the creative writing program and co-directs the global communication and applied translation program. Thank you.
I'm a little shorter than Michelle. Thanks, Michelle. That was wonderful. I'm so excited about this book, and it's gorgeous. It is by a younger Puerto Rican poet named Zaira Pacheco. I spend a lot of time in Puerto Rico, and at one point just said to myself, why do I know so few Puerto Rican poets? And it was really hard to find books down there. I had to go to the one bookstore and look over my shoulder and make sure the owner wasn't like, why are you just pulling out all these books and reading them and putting them back? And I found this book there, and I just really fell in love with it. It's, I guess, following in the footsteps of everyone who's read also sort of an origin story. But one thing I really love about Zaira's work is how loud the absences are, what's not said, the silences. And so I'm going to try to do that a little bit of justice in my reading. The poems are really short, so I'll just read a few of them pretty slowly. Blue. There is the mark of the first hole. But what is a hole, if not a trace of the first absence? A universe of inanimate things that have disintegrated without turning to dust. Space is empty of loss. There isn't. Habits. Waking with a fire in your pupils, eating breakfast. The traffic lights in the fridge are still blinking. The tar burns. The entire ground is one giant puddle. I know that I can't budge from here. I drag a heavy tail. There is a blinking light in the mountain. I don't know if it's a star or a floodlight. I think of the countryside and of my grandmother. Some sleepless nights are restful. Being a reptile. I leaned out of the body of water with a certain thirst. I sketched a mirage with my flesh. The volume of my body greeted its double and drank of itself, a syrupy bison taste. To return from the abyss always has its advantages. To follow the snakes and their hisses, to feel the wet earth beneath your skin. So, the sands of the Sahara often float to Puerto Rico. I don't know how many of you know that. It's like a very common occurrence, and it affects the weather and the air quality with some regularity. And so a lot of this book sort of takes place in the desert, but it also feels a little bit like being maybe stifled by colonialism. And the author sort of agreed with that assessment when I was speaking with her. I think it's really a tender thing to translate into the language of colonization of a place. So that was something I was very conscious of. Waking in the Sahara. I stood up and didn't know where I was. I still have the glass of wine and the empty cups. Fingers twist my black curls. Dawn has come. At least I have that conviction. A soft music murmurs. The high winds slide the glass door open. The sea isn't like before. A deserted salt flat drowns organisms in streams of sulfate. My dry mouth tells an ancient story. I'll just read a few more. This one in Spanish is called Delirios, which is of lilies, but also delirious. So it's particularly interesting to translate. It got translated as flor delirium. At least twice a year, my feet float over the asphalt that boils under cars. I'm the typical midday mirage. My temperature fluctuates dramatically. When it becomes unbearable, I approach a body of water, the one that darkens as I approach. The landscape is made of purple lilies. There in the sea, waves can be just as troubling as this fever on my forehead. Whole. In that fissure, electricity is the buzz of an insect that flies over the pea gravel. One by one, they disappear like shadow stains over the shifting dunes. A few photographs of the sea remain, the daybreak, the light of a meteor that disintegrates before it gets here. I'll read two more. Emergency room. The inclination is to keep practicing your breathing. The waiting rooms are crowded. I don't recognize the hallways where I'm short of breath. I cling to the walls so I don't lose my balance. Inhalation stops short when there is no reason to withstand the lungs' collapse. It doesn't scare me that my instinctive reaction is to shut my mouth. And this is the last one I'll read. If I can find it. Certainty. After the journey, I haven't yet arrived home. I know that the journey has nothing to do with me, nor the home. Thank you.
Hello. My name is James Loop. I'm the publicity director at World Poetry Books. I'm up here to introduce Jesse Amar. Jesse Hover Amar is a scholar of classical literature. He is interested in poetry, which displays deep engagement with text from the past while asserting its modernity and uniqueness. In 2022, he served as guest editor for World Poetry Review. The Escapades by Marie-Noël Agneau, published this month by World Poetry, is his first work as a translator. Welcome, Jesse.
Thanks everybody for being here, and thanks to the folks at World Poetry. This is my first translation project, and it's a really amazing experience to get to work on this really interesting poet and bring her to English readers for the first time. The poems in the Escapades are serialized. They have numbers, not names, and this is something the reader might not notice, but the translator who goes over it again and again does. That if you, and especially as I made excerpts for magazines, I noticed this, that if you go through it in different orders, it's kind of like Cain's jawbone. You can get different stories out of it. So I'm going to skip around a little bit and give you one tour through the Escapades. Here my home is mobile, green isle in the absence of all geography. You'd make the round of it on foot with ease, without ever seeing anything but silhouettes and Galilee, whose gravity bows the rushes, where an egret's whiteness is measured. A dog with neither home nor master sniffs the tracks, skims the walls, the new bergs, his mission, unshroud. The child, for his part, is reluctant to fall. Whether he copies this sidestep or wastes a moment in the totality of the game which animates him, the habit of standing upright, or attempts to conceive his birth. Each time it's a rush of bodies to frolic in. Sorry for making this racket of ruffled velvet, but the whole world's a fragment. The world cannot be retracted, on pain of being silenced, completely silenced, of becoming immobile. The world and my dress absorb the volume of things which looks like dust. My body transports what I am, and so many other sleepless nights. I am going to sing the song. Where I come from, time crushes and shears with a chisel through the belly. I am boy or girl, third language, unheard of. Where I come from, I'm alive, ever more alive. Where I come from, every hour is lived, reprised. The birds burn, our arms brim, and already the smallest start rolling out of the world. Life comes to an end on one side of the earth. Slumbers shatter, windows thin, the air from cliffs. Icarus. Shadow is junction. What I hadn't seen when, beneath the arch, you asked me if I had a name and what it was. What is this ring around the day, this brightness, this wedding band as slight as you and which prolongs us? At the height of summer, the winds of fern, imperceptible. What will you do at the fitting? In what covert, what nature? This knob of night, formerly called Adam's apple, wasn't it really an old rag for sifting dust from air, hawks of blood and action verbs? The poem has come to speak to you of things that are not yet there. The poem has come to speak to you of things that are not yet there, like whole wheat bread lacks a tongue of flesh. The poem advances its little mole's body and springs, following the underground radar of eyes which have not ceased to see. The poem curls up like the animal between our flailing hands. The poem has come alone, breathing deep to drain the atmosphere of the road. Coming along beside the pond again, I murmured to the water's depths that the water bursts and recedes, or else the desire to drive the water along, all the water before. The poem is forgetting, concretion of signs, and bestows its name on someone. In sum, it is infinite substance, and the love with which it invests its search, it's hardly a search, orients the clearing in an invisible forest. Last one. The whole of the world is a poetic fruit. Likewise, the bodies of birds merge with the mud they displace with a peck. This displacement frees them and hops unassailable. Only the wind sweeps them away with the words of children and their imaginary work site. The bird frightens our calloused hands. We can hardly hold so small, so frail, what we used to be. The bird's body is a living animal warmth. Its heart beats regular as sleep, bends towards unity like some kind of friction. But in itself, it threatens us. Soft and serene becomes strong. The mud envelops, solid to bursting and barren, no longer allows us to wallow. Speaking becomes the most beautiful human act, barer than bareness, more bare than the final word. The living thing paws the ground with abandon. And the human ear is like a tabernacle, a repository of great brightness where the invisible panics. Absence stands in for the body, while the latter attends to the head with a kiss on the brow. Thank you.
Beautiful. It's interesting because right before you read that poem, Joelle, who I started Action Books with, sent me a message that said Willie Nelson is somehow singing. And that seemed like you were describing somehow singing in spite of everything. I'm happy to introduce Emil Martin, who's a visiting assistant professor in literary translation and poetry at the University of Arkansas. She has translated, written, researched, I don't know how you prefer to refer to it as, W&E, a refracted translation of Wolf and Eidwasser, which we're going to be publishing in the spring with Action Books. It's an amazing book. It's like research, feminist, kind of like a groundbreaking work of translation. That's something I've never seen before. So maybe you can explain it better, Emma.
Thank you, Johannes. That's so kind of you. I'm going to do the thing that I hate to do, which is read some of these poems off my phone because the business center at the hotel did not have a working printer. So I apologize for that. Thank you again, Johannes. And thank you all for being here and for listening. Before I read the translation from these translations from W&E, I'd like to tell you a little bit about this radical Anglo-Saxon poem and its anonymous author. We know the Old English poem Wolf und Idwasser due only to its survival in the Exeter Codex, the largest existing anthology of Anglo-Saxon poetry, which dates back to the 10th century. Since no original manuscript for the poem exists, the date of its composition, its provenance, and even the identity of its composer are all unknown to us. What we know of the poet who composed this ancient poem is also very limited. Though unnamed in the poem, we can discern from the feminine inflection on the words riatugu and sioke that the speaker is a woman. It is possible, though perhaps implausible, that the poet is male. But even so, because the poem describes and laments a forbidding set of circumstances foisted onto the female speaker by a patriarchal Anglo-Saxon culture, the poet, who may have been Scandinavian or Anglo-Saxon and lived sometime before the 10th century, was undoubtedly a feminist, an outsider, a radical poet who mixed forms from both Anglo-Saxon and Scandinavian, subverting the literary conventions of each language culture in sophisticated and surprising ways. The unnamed speaker is represented as the symbol ampersand in my translations. You'll hear fragments of the original Anglo-Saxon, and in a few of these poems, you'll see that I will perform the redactions, which look like this on the page, just black boxes on the page. So how do you convert or translate something on the page like a redaction for something like a reading? So you'll see me hold my hand over my mouth for those redactions. And I'll start with the Anglo-Saxon version so that you can hear a little bit of the Old English. Wolf und Idwasser. Liedum is minum, swilche himmon lak gifei. Willet hai hine athigon, gif he on thriet gaimeth. Ungelik is us. Wolf is on iege, ik on authore. Feist is that Eglin fene beworpen, synden wel riawe, weras therd on ige. Willet hai hine athigon, gif he on thriet gaimeth. Ungeliche is us. Wolf is ik minus with lastem, wenum hogode. Thon hit was reinig weather, und ik riatuge sat. Thon mexe biadu kafa, bogum belegde. Was me wind to thon, was me wethre iek lath. Wolf, min wolf. Wena me thine, sioke gadaidan. Thine selt simas, mernende mood, nales metaliste. Gehidest du Idwasser, und cerne ergne velp, bideth wolf to vuda, that moniath tos leteth, that te nefde gesomnent was, unser gied giador. That's all we have of the poem. That's possibly a fragment, possibly a translation itself from Old Norse. We, ampersand. Ungeliche is us. We are difference. We two islands, the same, different. Held fast, that island, surrounded by bloodthirst. Husbands there will athic gone, hunt, kill, rape. If wolf looks like a wolf, if wolf's wolfness threatens the non-wolves, if wolf's ungeliche is too ungelik, ungelik is us. We are different. Wolf is wolf and not wolf. Wolf is Ampersand is they, is she, is wolf, is you. When it was dark skies, when only the forest could keep us alive. When we were two islands surrounded by battlefields, and every thread of joy was woven with fear, anger, hatred, mourning. Do you hear that howling? A wolf like us, and the joyful, woeful, wolfful song we make together is easily tossed leteth, torn apart. I'll read a couple from this little device. Ampersand on outlawed love. Thorny hit was rainig weather, when it was dark skies, when the sky punished us, when the world went quiet, and the only sound was and the wailing rain. Und ik rietuge sat, and I sat with mernende mood, a broken spirit. Her biadukafa embraced me. Our queer love song, unser gied giador, is a battle cry. Ungelik is us, ungelik is us. Win/lath. Ungelik is us, different for us who need to weave lath/pain into each other's win/pleasure, who sink our teeth into each other's necks and howl like wolves when it hurts and drown in the long, ecstatic note of that howling. This is the last one that I'll read tonight. Thank you so much. Unser Gied, our song. This time you be the prey, and I'll be the predator. This time you're stranded on an island of violent men, and I defeat them all with the battle-strong branches of my bogum. This time I devour you like a wolf. This time you find me crying in the middle of the forest and cover me with heavy branches until I can barely breathe. This time I save you from a tyrant husband. This time you be Win, and I'll be Loth. This time you be the wolf, and I'll be the whelp. This time you are an island surrounded by blood, and I have to drink it all to save you. This was my win to Thon. This unser Gied, Giador. This weird, endless, aching song we make together. Thank you.
Next up is Matt Reeck. Matt Reeck translated Leela Dar Jaguri's What If the Earth Was Saved for World Poetry in 2024. It came out in May. He's currently a New India Foundation Translation Fellow for translating Qazi Abdul Ghafar's 1924 Urdu travelogue, A Portrait of the West. Welcome, Matt.
Hello. Leela Dar Jaguri was born in 1940. He's 84 years old. I'm going to be reading poems that he wrote in 1973 and 74 at the beginning of autocratic rule in India. Mujhe bhai hai, I'm scared. What the essayist didn't write about came through in the news. Society's in decline. And I'm scared the rivers will rush together beneath my feet. No. Or maybe there will be a slope like this, and people will fall down as soon as they see it. You can almost hear them slipping right now. I'm scared that in the grass, spears have grown, and rivers run dry, where thousands of snakes squirm like river water. Snakes, with their split tongues, are licking the ground. The river banks are collapsing. Having fallen into the Snake River, I can neither swim nor drown. What will my memories reveal when they test me with their poison? Will some memory recall the snake's flickering tongues? Will some memory of friendship suffocate me like those snakes? When the end comes right on time, who will eat whom? I'm scared. In the newspaper today, I imagine the drowned were seen from the airplane. The earth is spinning, and hawks are circling overhead. Suddenly, I start thinking about my fear and the things I'm not able to say. Then I realize giving life to them in words would make me fear them even more. रामलीला मंगतू बीड़ी के पैसों के लिए राम बना हुआ है प्रभातु चाय के पैसों के लिए सीता लक्ष्मण परशुराम के क्रोध के नीचे से माता दीन की रेखा को लांघ रहा है भरत को कोई भरोसा नहीं कि चप्पल की जुगाड़ भिड़ जाए कहाँ है ज़्यादा कष्ट कहाँ है ज़्यादा निर्वासन रामायण में या जीवन में कहाँ लड़ा जा रहा है युद्ध कौन है शत्रु और कौन है शत्रुघ्न Ramlila. Mangtu is playing Ram to earn money for a biri. Prabhatu is playing Sita to earn money for a cup of tea. Lakshman is copying Parshuram's anger while staring at Matadin's daughter, Reekha. Bharat has no real hopes of earning enough to buy sandals. Who has it worse? Which exile is greater? The one in the Ramayana or the one in this life? Where is the war being fought? Who is friend and who foe? 1.5 rupees. Somewhere around here, there was once an impossibly big head wall. Young workers from Reeck and Ramoli were pounding it with iron rods. When the rods were raised, they looked like rifles in their hands. But a rifle can't break stone. It can only take a life. I asked them, where were you last winter? Kala Pahar. And before that, Chandi Dhangar. Meaning each winter, they were locked in drudgery on some rock, when in their minds somewhere far away, they were embracing their wives and kids, like dust mixes with dust. In 7 days, the mountain destroys each laborer's rod, and the broken rocks their shovels. The rock was so strong that to break off even a little was like pulling a tooth from Brahma, and laying a street was like pulling out his tongue. The field roller. Night. A pile of black manure. Stars. A strain of good seeds. Moon, a sickle. Sky, a field. I want to use all of you, but I don't have any cattle. Sky. Some have yoked you to the backs of airplanes. Who are these people, flying everywhere, every day? There's not one single person from my village, among all my relatives, among everyone I know in those plains. I think, because this is my desire, why don't I just use a field roller to flatten the entire earth? In death's grasp. The ox had to be saved, but it was too big to grab. So my grandmother pulled its tail, and the two fell down the mountain. Now everything passes before the ox's eyes and mind, the frolicking he used to enjoy in the fresh breeze that will die with him. Her weary face was like a Himalayan raspberry. Her fading eyes were like an eagle's. The wrinkles on her face were like coiled snakes. Even today, the valley bottom and the space between the trees ring out with my grandma's cry and the ox's bellows. Once, the ox beat off a tiger and did so with an ox's resolve. On his back there was a calic where he couldn't stand to be touched, and that was where his spine just snapped. 2 years ago, he'd been neutered. He always stood on the left in the yoke. Last year, his mom was swept away, trying to cross the river. In this great weather for farming, the village is filled with the scent of fresh fodder, but his tongue is now hanging from his mouth. Grandma died with that ox, like a day laborer with his machine. People die from known causes. You can't compare Grandma dying all mangled and twisted to anything you know. If you compare her death to a politician's death, it would be like bringing her back to life to beat her over the head with an old shoe. A dead politician, if from some special department, would be worth a one-day vacation. But a dead ox of any size is worth at least 25 pairs of shoes. Here, no one's making comparisons, saying that she's Mother India would be stupid. Right now, her face is covered with cow shit, and her body is like an old gunny sack split. She didn't have any weapons, though the ox was lucky to have 2 horns. Grandma's waist blanket is covered with pea. A government minister or Sahitya Academy member might be happy, saying at least she had something to eat. In the future, let it be known that for a dead person's belly to be filled with so much in our day and age was an achievement. Where Grandma and the ox are lying dead on that untilled land, our petition for ownership was rejected 3 days ago. Anyone can come and see how Grandma didn't have a gun. Now she's lying dead on that forbidden land, and in her mind's eye, an ox is still falling. Thank you.
So Laura Cesarco Eglin is a poet and translator from Uruguay. She is the author of 6 collections of poetry, and her translations include Klaus and the Scorpion by the Galician author Lara de Paso Rival from Cohen Press, and Of Death, Minimal Odes by Hilda Hilst. And she's translated many books, but a book in Portuñol for Eulalia, Fabian Severo's Night in the North. So Lau, welcome.
Thank you. So I'm going to be reading from Gabriel Aguirre's book, El lugar equivocado de las cosas, The Mistaken Place of Things. Gabriel Aguirre is from Querétaro, Mexico. And so in this book, The Mistaken Place of Things being the correct place of things, being the mistaken place of things. It's continuous rehearsal of being present and absent in different places, metaphorical or not. I invent myself as I go. I just want a bit of an audience, a microphone at the right volume, and in the dark, the voice of my father womb where I float and fall, like sound turned echo in his chest, while I sleep after a party. I dreamed I was another, I swear, but something fell in the room where I slept, and it was already 5 and the alarm clock. If this body is the only thing I have, the only staircase available, if this body, these hands are the rope that holds April, the window through which things happen, if this is not enough, Gabriela, trapped in her wings, in a dream about bridges, in a dream about water. Gabriela, atrapada en sus alas, en un sueño de puentes, en un sueño de agua. An ankle pierced by a bullet, the precision of the hit, which the world on a morning like any other delivers us. To talk about the bullet, its icy trajectory, to talk about the man that finds in his body the bursting of the unrepeatable, to say about the bullet and the ankle a moment, a kind of omen, a telegram nobody understands, even if there's a name on it. I saw the ships sail away and the people raise their hands to wave goodbye. I've watched the women kiss their men off, see their men off, kiss them hastily, write them a letter without words on the neck they had kissed just a few hours ago. And yet I don't know how certain verbs should be conjugated when the heart is an organ that parts, and I haven't learned to say goodbye or leave the cities in the cities. To burn my fingers with a cigarette, to wait till the end, to look for you there too, in what consumes itself. Quemarse los dedos con el cigarro, esperar hasta el final, para buscarte también ahí, en lo que se consume. Sorry, I just got the book today, so I didn't mark. I'm very excited about it. La poesía no pudo salvarte, amiga. Los pájaros te arrancaron los ojos antes de que pudieras mirarme. Poetry couldn't save you, my friend. The birds gouged out your eyes before you could even look at me. I'm glad you're laughing. To go through, a quarter you go down, place of transit, a fleeting encounter with memory. To go through, cross the street, pass by, to be in a body but not to stay, to go to the other side, to stay in a different way, to go through, imperative verb that hurts when it goes through us. Thank you.
Before we have our last and final reader, Kira Josefsson, does the raffle team have any raffling to do, or are you gonna save it? Is Bonnie? I think we're gonna save it for tomorrow. Yeah. So what I should do? Yeah, and that's what. So definitely after the last reader, you can mill around. You can have a final little refreshment, look at the books. There's going to be a lot of books in there. You'll want to come back during the next few days if you're not in Milwaukee often. This is like the treasure trove of bookstores for poets especially. And buy a raffle ticket on the way to the party to support this mutual aid fund. and I hope you'll find out more. They have flyers too. So, okay, last but not least, Kira Josefsson is a writer, editor, and translator working between Swedish and English. Her translations have been shortlisted for the International Booker Prize, the Bernard Shaw Prize. She lives in Queens, New York. And her translation of Judith Kiros's O was published just this September by World Poetry. Please welcome Kira.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay, like on the feed also? Okay, perfect. These mics are always a challenge. So, O by Judith Kiros. Judith is, I think, one of Sweden's most exciting, interesting young poets. This is her debut book that came out a few years ago. It's a sort of alternative production of Othello that sidesteps Black Death for a multitude of futures. Those futures are expressed in both the sort of sharp and ungovernable turns that the events take in the book, but also in the many different poetic forms that she employs and plays with both Shakespearean and others. And I'll be reading from sort of many different of those forms, so you'll get a bit of a sample. And I'm going to set my timer. This one is called Heart of Darkness. When the full moon drags the sea, I drag myself up by the hair. Why not call it my cold ghost? Haunt me, be fair. If the new dawn breaks open, the sky cracks if it can. Like a former night can cleave into a shadow nicks my neck. The way a word can cover others, father's blood can mother's blood, or how fog shimmers drapes itself across past days. The way a kiss can hover over cracked lips leaking salt, or the way wordless sorrow often follows borrowed grief. If they aren't dead already, welcome them, you haunt them too. Welcome them with brittle roses, armfuls of splintered ice. The wound won't turn the page. It glows, I thought that time had scarred. Memory dark and white at once, they cross here, text and time. The legend grows new porous bones, moving deeper into us. When it courses through the bloodstream, fantasies bud inside us. Look, it hurries up the street. Look, it sneaks into my bed. Look, it skulks beneath the branches, hides behind the curtains, lies down between me and her. Thank you. Look, it blushes beneath its collar. Look, it doubts my fidelity. Look, this is me as my own executioner, testing the blade against my teeth, pressing the pillow against my lip. Thank you. Exeunt. And this one is called Singing Lessons. On piping up, on etymology, on word sequence, variation, and syntactical complexity of a slightly higher degree, on how the sky rings out the sea, on confusion of tongues and 2 weeks' worth of grief, on Swedish at the intermediate level, on expecting to hear a different voice inside your voice, on warming up, on the many voices produced from the same throat, on making one's voice a little sweeter to preclude apprehension or disapproval, on chirping like a tree full of songbirds, on chirping like a lady in waiting on fire, on vocal cords that seem to have undergone a permanent transformation, on song, on swallowing longer words like swords, on grief, on splitting a continent into parts, on the problems of partitioning, on blood underneath the braids, on pondering, on his posture when you think of him, usually with his back to you, elbows on his knees, on resting with the dead, on rising with them, on carrying the dead in a net on your back, on how heavy they were, on how many they are, on the autumn leaching the color of your skin, on autumn and its monotonous barking, on piping up, on being an atypical Swedish Lucia, on how he sits with his back to you these days, head in his hands, face drawn and blank, on this being his only way of showing you thanks, on the burning leaves hissing and shriveling as they shrink, on the fist striking from without and within, on splitting the screams into two distinct teams, on covering up the most enduring ravines, on getting dressed and done up and then drank, on trying to shake some life into one's lust for life, on shoving a hand down your throat and then sank. What a bouquet of voices, on speaking as one. This is part of this sort of essay that runs through the book in fragments. We're still debating consider the possibility that for some reason it nevertheless feels imperative to note that one was holding the door for them as they said it. It also feels imperative to note that one, when yelling at them, most likely did not do so in order to have a story to tell. Afterward, this was another time. Trembling, she let the words pelt them like gravel in the dark. Was it pleasure, fear, a veil of rain? Ultimately, O is more or less forced to destroy himself, the foreigner who entered the Venetian court. However, the autopsy determined that he wasn't dead, or he might have been dead for several years. But this one is called Rain 2, which rests in the watery thicket, silt of calcified time, streams between wrists and thighs, rain in this month of winter, this green and gray July. Hear it thrumming on the roof, feel it thrumming on the tongue. They have loved my silence, a woman's silence. I have loved my silence, a black man's silence, which is to the water's silence. It calls out fire. And one last little excerpt. The contours of the dream. Girls in rhinestone and polyester, their arms around each other's waists, shimmer down the street. They skip over puddles. They inhale smoke from a small coal fire. The second before you left the room, your face appeared in such relief that I still recall the taste of your sharp profile, your lips, the black line of your eyelashes. A long time ago, someone started walking. It's the kind of thing that gets in your hips. You say, if you don't get used to speaking without words, if you don't flip the meat when it sizzles against the stone, if you can't kill a man with a single shot, then what is your mother tongue? But the heart beats regardless. A black woman stretches out on the bed with her hand between her legs. She's not being recorded. She won't appear in any photos. Thank you. And free Palestine and do buy those raffle tickets.
Thank you, Kira. I would say keep clapping. A round of applause for all our readers tonight. Yeah. Thank you all for coming. As mentioned, Please buy raffle tickets. Please buy books. Please join us at Art Bar down the street, couple blocks, after we've finished here. And yeah, thank you.